The river flow measures 3 million gallons per second. If the levee were to be breached right here at Skip Bertman Drive, God forbid, the water would fill Tiger Stadium in 30 seconds. New meaning to roll tide. Let me make 2 points right here. I mean, right here.
Daniels for the win. Caught! LSU does it!
The volume and force of the Mississippi carries with it nutrient-rich sediment known as alluvium. The river actually filters 40% of the dirt in America, ultimately giving rise to the nation's largest floodplain, and within it, Louisiana's alluvial valley. That rich river sediment creates the finest farmland in the country, and it's made Louisiana an agricultural giant in the production of beef and dairy cattle, cotton, corn, rice, and soybeans. Oh, and who could forget crawfish? We're the nation's largest domestic producer, 150 million pounds of the delicacies each year. But the Mississippi River didn't build those fertile fields all on its own. If the Mississippi had its way and the levee system had not been created to harness the river, it would eventually overtake the Atchafalaya River and hasten its race to the Gulf. The Atchafalaya flows south to the Gulf in 130 miles. The Mississippi's serpentine path through Louisiana requires 315 miles before it reaches the Gulf. It's a good thing for the economy that the two rivers remain separate and distinct. Otherwise, Baton Rouge would not be a port city, and New Orleans would become a saltwater estuary. Of course, in true colonization fashion, it was a Spaniard, Hernando de Soto, who was credited with discovering the Mississippi River in 1541. The Spanish were the first European outsiders with whom the Native Americans had to contend. The Spaniards were explorers. They wanted to expand their Catholic faith in the 16th and 17th centuries, traveling from Mexico and South America, from what is now Florida and from what would become Texas. But it would take another 100 years before the real roux in the human gumbo was introduced to the New World. First, we got to make a roux, though, huh?
That's exactly right. Everything in Louisiana begins with the roux when you're talking about a gumbo.
All right, well, let's make a roux.
Okay, good. And a roux is equal parts of oil and flour. And it's a thickening agent, and without the oil and the flour combining, we would just have a watery dish rather than the right, nice, rich, thick dish that we're gonna call a gumbo. So I'm putting in oil. In the old days, we would use animal fat. We would use any kind of fat coming in from, get one of these, and Jay, I'm gonna let you take this.
All right.
Now, equal parts of oil and flour, and you're gonna see the steam coming out of here. The water's gonna evacuate that pot quickly, and you wanna stir like crazy. You don't want it to stick to the bottom of the pot. And this is another one of our early gifts from the French explorers. They came in and found the Native Americans doing this, and they said, you know, we like it, but let's thicken it.
And of course, this is thickening, just like you wanted to do.
And of course, as you stir, it's gonna change color because the flour is gonna toast, and through the toasting, there's gonna be a richness and flavor that's gonna just be compounded when we add this beautiful, beautiful stock. And you wanna get all in the corners of that so you don't burn it. And the more you cook it, the darker it'll get. And of course, that's the secret to a good gumbo.
Ah, the French. Their first expedition began in 1682, when Robert Cavelier Sieur de la Salle set sail from the Great Lakes in a canoe. He disembarked near what is now known as Venice, Louisiana.
He started to smell and taste salt water, and he knew he was near the mouth of the river. He landed and famously planted the fleur-de-lis and the cross, and claimed the entire watershed, sight unseen, as the land of his king, King Louis, and hence Louisiana.
I claim this land for King Louis. Louisiana.
LaSalle comments, as he begins to understand the nature of the lower Mississippi and how it relates to this vast basin through which he just sailed. And these are his exact words.
A port or two here will make us masters as a whole of this continent.
Less than a decade later, the French crown recognized that it needed to act on La Salle's claim, or else the Spanish or English would.
They deployed